Hey, Laura J, working away and wanting to say, I love you, 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 I love you. I wanted to say that to someone and then I was like, my too muchness. So I didn't. And instead, I decided to say it to all of y'all and say that I hope that you have someone love you so much that they just want to love on you without it being oppressive. I want to live in a world where we can love one another without needing to own one another or possess one another. I want to be able to love one another without a title and still have it a sacred container when it is an agreement agreed to by both involved in it without a business being involved. I believe that's what it means to be unincorporated, and I believe that living in our private capacity is the way that we actually stand in our power position outside of the public thing. The public affair, I don't want to have an affair. I wrote a chapter in my book about a chapter in my life where I betrayed myself. And in the process, I had an identity crisis that we all have when we act against our conscience or our better judgment. Wow. So, I have a whole lot more to share, and I'm going to be doing it at the retreat this weekend, as well as hearing what those present have to say too, because what I've done is pulled together a few of the patterns underlying the patterns that we recognize. So the energetic patterns underlying the patterns that we recognize as syntax for the sin of tax that was tacked on to the meanings we applied to words. We are living in a world that is a mitote by Don Miguel Ruiz's standards in the Four Agreements, which say be impeccable with your word, always do your best, don't take things personally, and I don't know what the last one was because I lost count of what I'd already said. Don't make assumptions is probably the last one that I had missed before, but now I caught. For those four are how we have got into this mess by not being true to those agreements. So let's actually get back to creating a new mitote. That is the difference between the dream of the world and the dream of the planet, as my friend Neil Sperling often says. So, without further ado, I am going to invite a few of my friends to share their perspective through their lens, because each of us have valuable contributions to consider. And with that being said, it's not to say that I am sharing or anyone else is sharing the way, for a unidroit is a one way. Uni, one, droit is right in French, and that's the mixing of jurisdictions when you invite another language to come into your sentence. And when you do, then there's competing jurisdictions. And when there's competing jurisdictions, then who gets to be the ruler over the page? For the ruler is how we stay within the lines, because they were drawn with a ruler, or they were just imagined. We have to be the ones that create and learn to stay in lines that don't actually exist until we give them credit and say, okay, you gotta miss this and that, because those are not going to be places that will be in my best interest to step on now that I know about the traps. Once the oblivious has been made obvious by exposing the lies within that which we didn't see before we had eyes to see it, is when we start to see the not see plan, as in the not seeing plan. And that also not even connecting to Jews that worship or practice Judaism. But because of my lack of familiarity with that whole construct and group of people, I didn't recognize the paradigm they were placing dimes on. And I said it at 444, because the usury agent is actually a Jew that works for the courts. It's a court Jew. And that is going to screw a few heads up, because you don't talk about such things without being deemed anti-Semitic. But I'm not being anti-Semitic in my statement of a fact. When usury agents use those that they are acting as agent for in order to benefit from, for usury agents benefited from charging extortionate interest rates for lending money, which is exactly what happens when we enter into a contracted state as a third party or ward in our own story for a usury agent to use us in order for the corpse to profit that it's working for. And by it, I meant them. For they are then the face of the corpse that is causing the man or woman that's being extorted harm, loss, and participating in fraud to give the nod to a de facto government under a unidroit usufructory system that's fructing us all, which means extracting the fruits from a rich source. 555. I end today and say, it is time for the day of reckoning to be called, and I reckon it be called now. I called it on New Year's Eve, in fact. 6:06. New voicemail. So I do it again here, now. The day of reckoning is here. I reckon it happened. And I'm actually going to follow up on the call that made me seem crazy in 2019 when I called the police to report the system was corrupt and they were in on it. But there must be some good ones, and I'm here to help bring peace to this world, so take me to your leaders, which landed me in the Mental Health Act, under the Mental Health Act, in a mental institution or asylum. 3 different venues, in fact, where I was housed before I landed, where I stayed for 2 weeks and spent my 32nd birthday. And it was a trip and a half. But now I laugh because it didn't own me. And I learned to see what others couldn't see and haven't seen, and now what I said then I'm doing. So who says that my claims were not true and tried to screw me? That's what I want to know.